let's go to Hugo. Hugo is going to talk about Clarity Improvement Process and Clarity 3. And then we'll have, after Clarity discussion, we'll have open floor, if that's okay. Or do you want to...
Oh, no, it's fine. I just wasn't sure, that's all.
Sure. Unless you need to leave earlier, you got something to say, we can bring that forward.
No, I'm not in a rush.
Cool. All right. All right, let's get started. So yeah, thanks everybody for coming. Today's topic is Clarity Improvement Proposal. Oh, sorry, Clarity Improvement Process. And Hugo kindly wanna sort of share with everybody how and what Clarity 3 will be involved. And I guess my understanding is it's still a community effort, like what to include in Clarity 3. But I think Hugo can talk more about that. Yeah, so just to give everybody a little bit background for those who've been here sort of first time, on this call, we talk about anything SIP related. So if you have any SIP idea, whether it's technical or non-technical stuff, governance related stuff, you can bring anything up on this call. If you want to book a session, like you become the speaker advocating for your SIP, like here is a space and where you can get feedback and we can help each other shape each other's idea, because it's all community effort, really. And here you also hear a little bit update on overall status in the SIP world. So yeah, so let me just give a quick update on overall SIPs. So the SIP process goes from the draft to ratified, and some of the things are early stage before draft even, but pretty key conversation as an ecosystem, such as the Bitcoin MEV and the orphan blocks, which Aaron and Pavitra are sort of leading that effort. And we are trying to get community feedback on those. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But yeah, we still have many other things in the pipeline, such as safe token transfer, multi-sig wallet, smart contract wallet related stuff, and also like BNS and wallet client API. So those are the sort of the early stage stuff, and later stage of which being activated, and SIP 22, 23, 24, and also SIP 19 recently just got ratified officially in the GitHub. And congratulations to Rafael for a long process of getting SIP 19 ratified. And thank you so much for your contribution to Stacks ecosystem. So yeah, if you want to read about this particular SIP, I will drop a link in the chat. So yeah, there you go. You can read all about it. And some other really key stuff I want to highlight is the Bitcoin MEV and orphan blocks. So if you have any comments or updates, I really recommend you go to the Stacks forum. That's where all the sort of concentrated conversation happen, where everybody will see your suggestions or your thoughts, and it will really help to shape the final solution that we choose. So please go to Stacks forum and check out the Bitcoin MEV one. And the current status, from my understanding, is we have 2 proposals sort of on the table, 2 sort of considered more dropped. So there's also a link on Stacks forum to these 4 proposals to take a look. And at the moment, we're just trying to get any thoughts around those 2 proposals on Bitcoin MEV. And we're sort of trying to find a way to help people navigate. And one of the ideas was to narrow down the focus to ask targeted community feedback. So we've shaped 3 questions. If you want to help sort of read around the SIP and the proposals and maybe help answer some of these questions that the core devs are asking. So please go to Stacks Forum, and this is how you can help. With that being said, let's go into the main topic today. Hugo contacted me to arrange a SIP to talk about Clarity improvement process. So please go ahead. I'll stop sharing screen. If you want to share anything or you just want to talk, it's also fine, Hugo.
Okay, thank you very much. So yeah, I'm Hugo. I joined EVO about a year ago, and I started to learn Clarity like 18 months ago. And I'm working on the Clarinet team, especially on the Clarity VS Code extension. So basically, all of the interaction you have with Clarity in VS Code. This has been my main focus for the past year, along with a few other improvements in Clarinet. I will screen. I don't have a slide, but it will be mostly GitHub pages. So the idea is that until now, there isn't, I think, a clear process to suggest ideas or improvements to Clarity. While a lot of people do have ideas and suggestions, but I think they're a bit all over the place, and we don't have a centralized place to suggest these ideas. But the most active repository for that is the Clarity reference repository, which is a bit outdated, but the issues are quite active. We have 45 open issues. Some of them are a bit old, so we will need to do a pass on them. But basically, the idea is to have all of the improvement ideas centralized on this repository. And I opened PR like 22 minutes ago to add a contributing section to the README. So basically, the point, and I want to say also that everything I will tell is just in itself a suggestion. I just want to move forward with the process to suggest improvements to Clarity. And everything is obviously open for feedbacks and discussion. And by everything, I mean really everything. This has been discussed with a few people before, but not as openly as it is today. So basically, the idea is that anyone can open an issue on this repository, just with the user stuff, making sure that the issue doesn't already exist. Give some example why. Maybe in the future we will add issues template. We will have more specific processes, but for now I don't want to like over process the thing. The idea is to start small, and maybe with time we will need more and more processes, but for now let's keep it light. And I also created I think 5 tags for the issues on this repository. The first tag is Clarity 3 candidates. So basically, the idea is to propose that every new ID can be a candidate for Clarity 3. And then the ID can be refined, discussed. It's time to brainstorm the ID. This is where Clarity developers and the blockchain team can really work together. And then the blockchain team could move forward with this issue, either request for refinement, or if the issue or the ID is approved, this is where the issue will move to a SIP, or it can be moved to the Icebox. So basically, if there is a good ID that maybe won't be included in the next iteration, so the next iteration for now is Clarity 3, but maybe some ideas will be included in Clarity 4 or Clarity 5. It doesn't mean that they are bad ideas. It just means that we are not ready now to include them. So this is the Icebox tag. And we can also simply close issues with the won't fix tag. Actually, the tag is maybe not needed at all, but it is some proposal just won't be approved. So this is where default. And obviously, once an ID has been discussed and is specific enough, the idea is to move to a SIP, to an actual SIP. So this is why the section is called from candidate to SIP. And it's a bit like currently on the normal SIP process. I think the recommendation is to start on the Stack forum to engage a conversation and then to open a SIP. But because Clarity maybe is a bit like is very technical and Clarity developers are used to GitHub, the idea is to have this discussion here on a repository rather than having it on a forum. So if we look at the issues right now, there are a few that needs to be refined. So at this point, I think the blockchain team could really help to check on the issues. And I started as well, especially as I closed a few that were included in Clarity 2. So Clarity 2 was released with Stacks 2.1. And I will actually show you the involved SIPs as well. So as you probably know, there is not one SIP per Clarity improvement, but instead all of the improvements are grouped into bigger SIPs. So for example, in the SIP 15, there were a lot of new methods or renaming or aliases. And there was a whole Clarity section with all of the changes. So basically, it means that now if a Clarity 3 candidate is approved, it could be added to an existing SIP for the upcoming Clarity Stacks release, like what will happen with the Nakamoto release later this year. And also, at the same time as the SIP 15, there was a SIP 20, which was a group of, like, this was specifically Clarity improvement. It was just released at the same time. So this is just to give two examples of SIPs that include change in the Clarity language. But yeah, and to show that the improvement can be part of a bigger SIP. So basically what I expect from this call is to agree to gather all of the IDs on this repository and to agree on some, for now, light process, this process, to improve the Clarity language and make sure that we are all on the same page. I've seen in the past that some discussion on SIP 15 happened in the SIP comments, but some of them were left unanswered. So maybe if we have dedicated issues and a dedicated repo for that, I hope that maybe the community can be more heard and we can make sure to have a coherent language. And yeah, basically, language are like living software. They always need to be improved. And yeah, it takes time to get to a perfect language. This is a very light process to get started. Maybe with time, we will need to get to something bigger. But this is my suggestion for now. So yeah, I would love to hear your feedbacks and see what we could improve. And this contributing section is a PR. So it's PR number 62. So of course you can give me feedbacks right now or after, just on this PR to discuss the process offline. So that's it for me. Now maybe we can discuss a bit about it. And if you have questions, I will try to answer, or maybe the blockchain team can help as well.
Cool. Anybody got any comments? Please feel free to unmute.
Yeah, I see that Teke has a question in the chat. Yes, basically every Clarity improvement needs to be implemented. If we want to implement it on the Stacks blockchain, it will be implemented on the Stacks blockchain repository, which, yes, is in Rust.
So I want to ask, are there any structures in place trying to guide usual or average Rust developers to become Stacks code developers? Because I had a team and we still have a network of folks, but I build with Substrate framework, and right now I'm doing research on how to use the framework because it's blockchain building to make a subnet. And then I don't know much about the Stacks core blockchain, and if they're like easy tasks or startup places where a Rust developer that can write maps, structs, and all of the macros and all that can get started. I want to ask, are there any recruitment plans or pipelines that can make Rust developers turn to Stacks developers within a period of time?
Maybe someone with from the blockchain team can answer this one. What I can tell is, oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I can take that one. It's kind of out of scope for this meeting, but yes, it's something we have been discussing and thinking about ways to improve. Today, there's not like a series of documentation that you can go through and become a blockchain developer in Rust for Stacks, but it's something that we are thinking about and planning to do in the near future.
Yeah, maybe I'll just quickly reply to that. I don't want to take too much time on that, but that effort is being looked at as we speak. We're trying to come up with a better onboarding path for some of these people who might be potentially interested in code development. And in the long term, we hope that they will get the right support and help and mentorship, or be in the right community so they can become a more engaged long-term contributor. So I'll definitely be interested in speaking to you about that, and maybe we can help shape that together.
Okay, awesome. I'll be in touch.
I'll jump in. So thanks, Hugo. I love this. I think this is great to like get everything organized, and there's a lot of interesting ideas out there. So it's good to kind of figure out how we're gonna take the next steps on them. One of the questions that I have that I don't know what a good solution is for it, and I don't know how much you thought about this yet with your with what you've got here. So what are your thoughts about how to decide what kind of features would get combined into a single SIP, and then also how to prioritize getting those actually implemented on the blockchain? Any thoughts around those two topics?
Yeah, so that's a tough one. And I guess, so I don't know how it was done for Clarity 2. I think that most of the additions were like needed for Stacks 2, for Stacks 2.1 to exist. A lot of Clarity 2 function had to be added, but there were also some aliases that were added for the language consistency, and the bit operators were added as well. I think the bit operators and the aliases were suggested by the community, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But I think that in the end, it's up to the blockchain team to decide what will be included in the next iteration, or at least it's the blockchain team that will implement that. So I mean, it's you that have the power to do it or not. But yeah, I don't know how, like I don't think we will do a vote on the Stack blockchain every time there is an improvement suggestion. It will be like too much process, and it will be unnecessary. But I really hope that if an issue maybe has a lot of popularity on GitHub, or if it's really well designed, or presents some really good use cases, maybe it can be considered by the blockchain team to be included. Yeah, I don't have a clear answer for that. My guess is that it will be up to the blockchain team to decide, but I guess I would like to have your feedbacks about that.
Yeah,
So
that's a good answer. I wonder if it would be valuable to have some sort of like governance group set up just specifically for Clarity. So like that could be a group, because I think there probably will be a lot of times when maybe core developers have too many other things on their plates, and like it would be nice to have some sort of organization to help make those decisions. And then I guess the other thing to consider too is when, I guess prioritization wise, there's kind of two different scenarios. One is when an idea comes from the Clarity group that is just an idea for an enhancement to the language. But then the other one is where it's an idea, but there's also an implementation already done. That's kind of with the bit manipulation instructions that made it into 2.1 because it came with an implementation right when it was proposed. So otherwise it probably would have been held off. Yeah, I don't really know what point I'm getting to.
Bryce, is there something that's not addressed in the current SIP process that you think we need a different approach here?
Yeah, I'm just thinking because we don't want a separate SIP for every language feature. So somebody's got to decide what things to combine into a SIP to propose.
Oh, I see what you mean. So in this case, we'd have, let's say, 10 different proposals, and that would be combined into a single SIP, which would be our hard fork. That would be voted on. Okay. I see.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Like typically in the past, like the SIP is essentially like Clarity 2, like the whole package of goods. So like the SIP for Clarity 3 would be like a SIP for Clarity 3, and it included a bunch of things that came from this process. So it's almost like this process is kind of upstream of the SIP process. And yeah, I agree with sort of what Hugo was outlining there, where it's a little bit of just like a vague sort of like consensus for like how these things end up together into Clarity. And it probably would be helpful to have maybe something not as formal as like a blockchain vote, but like just something a little bit closer to like a process for like how these things get bubbled up for priority.
Yeah, so I think that Clarity 3 will happen pretty soon, actually. So maybe we can start with something light with Clarity 3 and see how it works. And yeah, again, the idea is just to maybe have a simple process to suggest ideas, and nothing that will happen on the Clarity Long reference repository is guaranteed to be implemented in a SIP, even if someone said, yeah, it's a good idea, or someone add the tag will be implemented or SIP in progress or whatever. It doesn't mean that it will make it to the final SIP. It just means that, okay, we are we had the discussion, the specification is good enough, we see the point, we think it could be a good addition, so let's consider it in the SIP for Clarity 3. And then the more specific can happen on the SIP. But yeah, the idea is really to have a forum on GitHub for everyone to suggest ideas, because right now people don't know how to suggest ideas to Clarity. And there are a lot of good ideas, I think, on the reference repository. Maybe we can encourage people to vote for the issues. But yeah, seeing that the comments.
Can I ask, so how, I got a couple of questions. So just a bit of historical context. How did the last Clarity 2 got, what was the rough process? Was it mainly just proposed by the core devs, or how did it work?
So I think that most of the things that made it into Clarity 2 were either, they're basically just things that were unexpected, like implementations that existed in Clarity that kind of didn't act the way that you might expect them to. So a lot of the things were just fixing those behaviors. Yeah. So like a lot of the
maintenance related stuff.
Yeah. And then, like I mentioned, the bitwise operators made it in because they were pretty standalone, kind of didn't affect much, and they also had an implementation ready to go. So that's why those made it in.
What about like new features? Like how did those get selected in the past? Not the maintenance bug fixes, but you know, new functions.
I don't really know.
Okay, and it was so I think the handful of new features in Clarity 2 mostly came from issues proposed, like feature request issues in the blockchain repo itself. So these are things like to and from consensus buff that had like basically, it seemed like sort of 3 properties. One of the properties was like it couldn't be achieved in Clarity 1 at all. So like there was sort of no possible implementation. That's true from consensus buff. The second was that the issue was kind of like well fleshed out and sort of like well motivated. Like it came with a bunch of content that sort of explained why this was necessary, why it couldn't be done, and also sort of well bounded. And then 3, it was either the issue basically came with an implementation or had like a sort of readily available implementation. And then when Stacks 2.1 was sort of released, basically all of the issues that were implemented, all of the features that were implemented at that point in time basically became Clarity 2. So there wasn't like really much of a decision, I guess, happening. It was more so timing related issues that were amenable to sort of quick implementations, and then what eventually made it into the 2.1 SIP.
So I wonder whether this is how you guys seem to want to suggest move forward. It's almost like how the BNS V2 upgrade, kind of they have a list of features and then people can voice which features are interesting, more impactful, and then select some of those new features to do or not to do. Like, would it be something similar to this, like, but have a little bit more process? Yeah, and who decides, like, if there's any overarching theme, like, do we want more features, closer connection to Bitcoin, or is it more like interoperability to other altcoin chains? Like, how does the overarching is there an overarching theme at all? And yeah, I wonder.
From my understanding and perspective, I don't think that there is an overarching theme.
So I wonder, at this point, because we have been speaking of Clarity 3, but it's just a generic word. Do you have ideas of stuff that will be included into it? And do you know how much bandwidth in terms of like workforce will be available to bring improvement to Clarity 3?
I can say that I personally don't have any sense of what will be in Clarity 3 right now. In terms of bandwidth, you know, I think that historically Clarity has ultimately kind of been the easiest thing for folks to contribute to in the blockchain. And so I think that when I think about like what people who have contributed a lot to the blockchain can do for Clarity 3 or Clarity N or whatever, I think that probably like the highest value things folks like us could do is try to improve that. So like make it easier and easier to contribute to Clarity, just so that, you know, more folks can get involved. Like if there's 100 features people want to implement and there's 100 people, then they're all capable of implementing something small.
From the community, right, Aaron?
Yeah.
You mean like anybody who is not like Hero or Foundation? You mean like folks in the community, right?
Yeah, people in the community. Also like people at Hero or the Foundation who haven't previously contributed a ton to the blockchain, getting them more involved. So yeah, I think that just like making changes to Clarity easier, I think just sort of pays dividends to everybody.
I think a lot of the issues on the Clarity Long reference repository could actually be labeled that as good first issue for the Stacks blockchain repository. So maybe we could lead the contributing guide that way, telling that contributing to Clarity is good and easy entry point into the Stacks blockchain repository, and encourage people to to either provide resources on how to contribute or even contribute themselves if they really want a feature to be implemented.
Because I think currently we have a lot of ways to they learn Clarity and they go on to build their apps, for example. That's a very public and publicly advertised path. But I don't think a lot of people get directed to contribute to the GitHub side. So maybe it's through this developer community program or better space for it, that we have certain people making these new Clarity developer aware. There is other path too, you know, instead of building the stuff, new apps, you can also directly contribute to the new upgrades.
Yeah.
But don't we need also to understand like what the developers, because I see somebody from Xverse, like different developers, do they need to also be aware like the new whatever function they want in Clarity 3, they also need to kind of voice it? Like do the existing dApps built on Stacks need to be aware that they also have the opportunity to suggest whatever idea they need or want for their future apps?
I think people like Clarity developers were like, when something was missing to the language, developers naturally suggested improvement on Discord or GitHub in the past. I think it's kind of like right now. I think that Clarity is still a bit young, like it definitely is. So some missing stuff have been suggested. I'm not sure there is a need to push people toward that. They do it pretty naturally right now.
I see. Cool.
But maybe not for the most advanced stuff.
Yeah, I think having those people, open issues on this repo is a good way to go. And if they can demonstrate like high impact, then it's obviously going to get higher priority. Like I imagine for the near future, if there's a Clarity feature that comes up that like enables something for SBTC or like enables some improvement for SBTC, then that would get the highest priority right now. And if someone else came up with, so I think that's when you mentioned, Hugo, having like a template for the issues, including something in there about, what kind of impact would this have? And like Aaron mentioned, could this be implemented in the current way? Like what problem is it solving exactly? Those are important questions to answer. Oh, you're muted, Hugo.
Sorry. Maybe we could start directly with an issue template. I think it will make a lot of sense, even if it's light. But yeah, just what does it solve? And a lot of requests are just nice to have. Like I've seen the range proposal being pretty popular. Like people want to be able to create ranges from a native function. There is no need to like have a big template for that. It's pretty obvious which problem it solves. And then again, I think it's really up to, okay, it's so nice to have. It will be implemented if someone picks it up, or if people who want it make enough noise about it. Yeah, I can make a template suggestion.
Hugo, we recently started sort of an impact assessment thing for the overarching SIP. I think yours is more individual features, but there could be some similarity in terms of how we view the impact. And we, the SIP editors group, created a template. Maybe some of them, you can take some of the elements from there to create your template for the feature. So I will send you that link to see whether you can get any ideas from there. But that's how we currently set up each criteria. It's not criteria, but just factors that help us to view the impact and resources needed for each SIP. Some of them are very intense, some of them less resource intensive. And yeah, let me send you that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thanks for listening. I think we can continue the discussion offline. I think if we all agree to make this repository the official way to suggest ideas, we will need to write it somewhere so that people know how, like, whenever someone asks how to contribute to Clarity, we can direct them to this repository. If everybody's agree with that. And from there, we can improve, like create template issues, improve the README, keep the repository up to date, and everything. Okay, thank you.
This link, right, in the chat, the Clarity Lang reference issues. That's where you want people to go.
Yeah, or even, I mean, the root of the repository. If we have a clear README with a contributing guide, that would be the place to be.
Cool. Is there any timeline you guys are thinking of for this?
For this process, you mean, or for Clarity 3?
Yeah, for Clarity 3.
I think the Clarity 3 is a term that we've been using for the Clarity stuff that will be included in the Nakamoto release.
Right. So Q4 kind of. Yeah.
I think it's basically anything that will be added to Clarity in the next hard fork.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I mean, even Clarity 2 wasn't, it's not like an official term. It's like, it's just a Clarity upgrade.
Cool. Okay. Thank you so much. Did you have something to say? Don't go.
Oh, hey, yeah, my name's John, and
Okay.
yeah, it's my first time here. I've been I've been lurking in the community for a couple of years, but started posting a lot recently because of the orphan MEV issue on the Stacks forum, and I think this is why Hiro, you reached out to me to kind of join in on this conversation to kind of share my ideas. So yeah, I'm just I don't know how many people have read the stuff I posted, on the orphan MEV thread and also on the Discord, and I know some of you. I've been chatting with Aaron, I believe this morning, and so I know some of you read it. I'm happy to before I just I'm happy to take the conversation in any direction I want. I just don't want to hijack everybody's time. So yeah. Is there any way you'd like me to go with this, Hiro?
I don't know if this, because we only have 15 minutes left, and I guess we need sort of bigger, longer conversation than right now. I don't know if there's any specific question you want to ask Aaron right now, or want to let him know that we can have constructive conversation within 15 minutes. But if I was thinking to arrange a separate call where you and the DNG and a few others from the community all come together, and maybe Marshall as well, with the core devs on a SIP call, say next Friday or the week after. But anything you can get ahead before that call, like right now, I think could be a good idea. But maybe just a more 1 hour session, or everybody in the same room together, hash it out or bounce some ideas of each other. That was my thought. I don't know about what Aaron thinks or anybody.
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, I can actually just write up I can write it up on the forum post as maybe RFC of this idea, but basically it's just super brief. Right, the Stacks changes under this MEV orphan is really a 51% attack, and it's cheap to do it right now because all solutions are sort of orbiting around this block reward, which is like $500. So it doesn't take very much to the financial cost is super low to do it. And so if we can move the Nakamoto consensus out from underneath the miners, from being directly tied to the block reward to, let's say, the stackers where the financial stakes are in hundreds of millions, we can increase security. And so that's really briefly what it is. It's the Discord core dev has a more detailed implementation sort of explanation, but I can actually post something on the forum that as a precursor so everyone can read if that's a good idea.
I think that would actually be pretty appreciated. I think, RFC would be great, but I think also it might be worthwhile at some point. I can try to like write up a little bit of an RFC about like this like distinction that we were discussing in the Discord channel between like the current notions of like open membership and like other notions of open membership. Like in your proposal, you know, I know it doesn't seem like a lot that like now, you know, miners need to sort of interact with both Bitcoin and stacks in your proposal versus, you know, as the system is today, they just need to interact with Bitcoin. With those kinds of changes, I do think it's kind of important to get like lots of input from sort of like different stakeholders. Ultimately, I think that any sort of consensus changes need a lot of input from different stakeholders. But I think that trying to decode, I guess, some of this like technical stuff into kind of like a list of like high level changes that would make sense to less technical folks could help in getting some of that feedback. Because I think like if you sort of broadly look at sort of like the class of consensus algorithms that like require participation from people that like hold the like cryptocurrency being consensed on, or like whatever verb you want, people sort of break it down into two different buckets, like proof of work and proof of stake. And like sort of the current system in stacks behaves a lot more like a proof of work system. Like it's proof of transfer, but it behaves a lot more like proof of work or proof of burn than it behaves like proof of stake. And changes in that, I think, just would require, I just think, a lot more input from folks, because it does alter the nature of the system.
Yeah, I'm happy to write it up and discuss it. Yeah, that's cool. I'll put that in the work.
Is the idea that you have like a sort of a variation of Drew's idea of lifting mining off Bitcoin?
It's actually not. It's centered, because Drew's proposal is still centered around the security budget of, it still orbits around like the block reward, right? So it's still, you're still economically bound to the $500, you know, as a security budget. So this is trying to lift it off from that, because it's too cheap to 51 attack, and move it up to Nakamoto consensus still, but it's just on the stacker Nakamoto consensus, and as opposed to the Nakamoto consensus tied to like minor commits, let's just say. So that's why it's not proof of stake. It's because it's still Nakamoto consensus.
Oh, well, really, we'll really appreciate if you can write something up.
Yeah, I'll be on it.
And Aaron, if there's would it be like the 5th proposal on top of the current 2 on the table, basically? 2 drop and 3.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of proposals right now, and yeah, I think that it is correct to think of all of them still as like RFCs and not not SIPs yet.
Yeah.
Because like ultimately, I think that we're still actually engaged in some useful and productive dialogue about like all of these things. So
okay.
Yeah.
Do you think it's worth arranging a call with everybody like John, maybe at some point in the near future? I don't know how far away. I don't know, would it help you guys, or not?
I think that it's probably like too early to say definitively whether or not we should schedule a call, but I think that it'll probably be useful to try to get something like this on the agenda for one of the SIP calls. Like we have a SIP meeting already, so we could try to get this on the agenda maybe for the next one.
For John's proposal, or do you mean just in general Bitcoin MEV discussion?
I think that it might be useful to have to put together maybe a status talk of like various proposals.
All right. Okay.
Like, yeah, what's going on with them.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Does that sound useful to other people? Just like talk where each of the proposal gets some attention and some discussion, and then if people think that whoever is summarizing those proposals is wrong, they can weigh in.
Sounds good. Yeah, I will help you guys. I'll help with the outreach to the people who have chimed in so far on forum or on Discord, like John. I think could be useful to have all these people with deeper knowledge to just have you guys chat together, maybe.
I just want to add that I am really happy to see more community involvement around these things. It's one of the things I've been really wanting to see. So, I love the proposals coming in here.
Yeah, 100%. I think I've just this morning, John, and there's another person called DNG, and Marshall. I think Peters is another person who's been contributing. So yeah, really love seeing this. Like guys keep chiming in those ideas. Stacks, like people usually start with a Stacks forum, and then we go off different places. But Stacks forum is a great place to have concentrated talks about important issues like this. Yeah, we're sort of trying to get these contributors community all like together, just so we have much more higher engagement and people who stay in the community and contribute this way. So yeah, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Hey, just to chime in on the MEV issue,
Sure.
If there was to be a change that would, change consensus and require the next, or be required to be pushed to the next hard fork, what is the method for getting in contact with every miner so that they would have to, have Stacks as well as Bitcoin in order to mine properly? Like, is there like a centralized miner channel? Because I feel like we had issues last time where some miners didn't upgrade immediately on time. So I'm just wondering what's the practice there?
Yeah, there's no easy way to do it, honestly. So there is a mining channel in Discord. So when there is a hard fork or even any upgrade at all, that's one channel that we ping because we want to see miners upgrade absolutely. We just keep pinging people. On occasion, we have sent transactions to a miner's address with a note that says, hey, upgrade to the new version. But there's not like a centralized list of people that we know are miners that we contact unless we've identified them in passing through Discord or the forum.
I think on Stacks Explorer or on stacks.co or .org website, sometimes there's a banner.
Exactly. Yeah, that happens as
to
well.
Notify readers, and hopefully miners read or use the Explorer. That's another little way.
Yeah, and you know, the miners, you know, a lot of times they want to stay private. So we're not interested in knowing who they are. We just want to make sure that they're aware there's a new version to upgrade to when it happens. And we do that the best we can just by notifying a broad range of areas. You know, Twitter, the forum, Discord, the Explorer, et cetera, et cetera.
If you guys were to do the change outlined by John or something like that, where it required Stacks as well as Bitcoin, do you expect any pushback from miners, or is that part of the reason of the hesitancy to not have it be like a, you know, number one kind of forefront issue right now? Because it seems like it's, for a lot of people, kind of the biggest problem.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think it is, because, you know, it's a 51% attack, and, you know, the Bitcoin community, when there had GigaHash, they were all, you know, all up in arms about it. So I think some of these things like SBTC, you really wouldn't be able to launch these type of things with you know, reorgs like this, and so I think it should be the forefront, in my opinion.
I can say it's definitely near the top. I know that Pavitra is looking into MEV specifically. She's putting forth several proposals. We're also looking at orphan blocks as well. There is a forum post with different work streams outlining the priorities that we're looking into currently. Testing being one of them, MEV being another, orphan blocks another. So it is a priority. It's not something you can fix quickly. That's the challenge. So it may not look like things are being done or happening as quickly as people want, but they are happening.
Yeah, because we don't have a central CEO to decide, oh, this proposal, and let's go ahead. And we do need everybody to vote as well on this with their stacks, with the wallet. We do need a public vote. And I guess miners will be able to exercise their say using their STX too at that point.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And the decentralized nature of not having a CEO in that regard is probably a good thing overall. I think most people would agree that. But people migrating from other blockchains that know a lot about how consensus works in other blockchains, when they see that as an issue, and I'm imagining in the future that we all think that Stacks is going to get a lot more traction from other people that are, you know, maybe migrating off of Ethereum. When they see things like that, it's going to shy them away. So I know I'm not like I'm not trying to like blow the horn or anything, and, you know, I'm not trying to dramatize it, but it is, I think most people in the community think it's a really important issue. So it's good to know it's at the top of the list, and let's just try and keep the dialogue going as much as we can.
Yeah, I did share the link to the prioritization forum post that I mentioned.
Yeah, and I'll do my best to generate more conversations so that we can move this conversation on and trying to get some sort of decisions and then get some sort of voting going on like soon. But it requires just a lot of discussions. But yeah, it's definitely on everybody's top of mind, I think. But yeah, with that being said, thank you guys so much. It's a 1 minute past, so I don't want to drag people for too long. Yeah, thank you everybody for turning up, all the community members and core devs. Yeah, I'll see you next week. Thank you, David. Bye.
Yep, thanks guys. See ya.